I'm Arthur, and trust me, exciting wouldn't exactly be the word my friends would use to describe me. More like walking encyclopedia or human Google. Yeah, I'm that kid. The one who gets called on for every history fact and whose idea of a good time is getting lost in a dusty bookstore. So, when I landed the night security gig at Blackwood Library, well, let's just say I did a little happy dance, internally, of course. Blackwood wasn't your average library. Forget the sterile smell of new carpet and flickering fluorescent lights. This place oozed history. The building itself was this Gothic monstrosity, all gargoyles and stained glass windows. Inside, the air hung heavy with the scent of aged paper and leather, and the towering bookcases stretched into the distance like a forgotten city skyline. The first few nights were pure bliss. Just me, the endless rows of books, and the comforting silence, except for the occasional creak of the ancient floorboards, which I found oddly charming. I'd wander the stacks, fingertips trailing across the spines of forgotten novels and dusty tomes. It felt like stepping into another world, a world where knowledge whispered from every page, but then, things started to get weird. Not jump out and scream weird, but a slow, unsettling creepiness that sent shivers down my spine. One night, I swore I saw a book on the history of the Crusades move on its own, a flicker of movement on the top shelf. Another night, a shadow darted across a wall just out of the corner of my eye, leaving me straining to see in the dim light. In the silence, sometimes it felt more like a pressure, a thick blanket smothering the library in an unnatural quiet. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe I was just imagining things, sleep-deprived from all the late nights. But then, I found it, hidden deep within the restricted stacks. A section I wasn't even supposed to be in lay an ancient, leather-bound book. It pulsed with an unseen energy, its pages whispering secrets in a language my mind couldn't decipher. Curiosity, that insatiable beast, gnawed at me. Against my better judgment, I cracked the book open, the brittle pages groaning in protest. The yellowed pages were filled with strange symbols that danced before my eyes. Squinting in the dim light, I tried to decipher the archaic script. It felt less like a language and more like a series of unsettling images. Twisted figures chanting around a glowing portal, monstrous creatures clawing their way through the air, and a final image of the library itself, engulfed in a shadowy vortex. A cold sweat prickled my skin. This wasn't history. It was something far more sinister. With trembling hands, I continued reading, the faded ink hinting at a dark ritual performed within the library walls centuries ago. A ritual that tore open a doorway to another dimension, a dimension filled with hungry, monstrous beings. And those beings? They were trapped within the very pages of the books. Panic clawed at my throat. The strange occurrences, the unnatural silence. It all made sense now. The library wasn't haunted by ghosts. It was a prison, holding back an army of nightmares. The book mentioned a counter-ritual, a complex series of chants and symbols that could reseal the portal. But the instructions were cryptic, the language a twisted mix of Latin and what looked like demonic runes. I wasn't exactly a scholar of the occult, just a bookworm with a penchant for history. But this wasn't about dusty facts anymore. This was about keeping the world safe from unspeakable horrors. Suddenly, my love for books felt less like a quirky hobby and more like a desperate hope. Maybe, just maybe, with enough research and a whole lot of luck, I could decipher the ritual and slam the portal shut. But time was running out. The whispers emanating from the books were growing louder, more insistent. The shadows seemed to writhe and twist in the corners, and the silence felt heavy with a malevolent presence. I was trapped in a library, surrounded by knowledge, but the knowledge I needed might just be the key to my own demise. The fate of the world, it seemed, rested on the shoulders of a bookish introvert with a shaky hand and a pounding heart. Sleep was a distant memory. Fueled by adrenaline and a potent mix of fear and determination, I spent the next 2 nights hunched over the ancient book. My phone, a beacon of the modern world I was desperately trying to protect, lay forgotten on the security desk. The flickering fluorescent lights, once a source of annoyance, now felt like a lifeline against the encroaching darkness. The ritual was a labyrinth, each step more complex and cryptic than the last. I scoured the library, desperately searching for any scrap of information that might shed light on the symbols or the language. Days blurred into nights, the library's silence broken only by the frantic turning of pages and my own muttered curses of frustration. Then, a breakthrough. Hidden within a dusty tome on forgotten rituals, I found a passage that mirrored the symbol from the ancient book. It wasn't a language, but a series of gestures, a specific way of manipulating the very essence of the library itself. Hope, fragile but persistent, flickered in the pit of my stomach. The night of the full moon, as prophesied in the ancient book, was fast approaching. I knew time was running out. With trembling hands, I gathered the ritual items: a silver chalice from a forgotten display case, a handful of withered herbs from a neglected corner of the botany section, and a length of frayed white cloth I ripped from a discarded tablecloth. Standing in the center of the library, the towering stacks looming ominously around me, I began the ritual. My voice, initially shaky, grew stronger with each movement. The symbols flowed from my hands with an unnatural grace, a power I couldn't explain. The air crackled with unseen energy, the whispers from the books morphing into guttural growls. Suddenly, the floorboards beneath my feet began to tremble. A chilling wind whipped through the library, extinguishing the lights and plunging me into darkness. The shadows writhed with malevolent energy, coalescing into monstrous shapes in the corners of my vision. Fear threatened to consume me, but I pressed on, fueled by a desperate hope. With a final, resounding chant, I slammed the ancient book shut. A blinding flash erupted from its pages, engulfing the library in an otherworldly light. When the light subsided, the library was bathed in an eerie silence. The shadows clung to the corners, but they felt less menacing. Cautiously, I flicked on the lights. The books stood unmoving on the shelves, the air no longer thick with a malevolent presence. Had I done it? Had I truly sealed the portal? Exhaustion overwhelmed me. Collapsing into a nearby chair, I allowed myself a small smile. Maybe, just maybe, the bookworm had saved the world. But as I drifted off to sleep, a single thought flickered through my mind. Was the silence truly a sign of victory, or something more sinister entirely? The library, once a haven of knowledge, now felt like a watchful giant, its secrets still whispering in the shadows. And somewhere, deep within the forbidden stacks, the ancient book lay dormant, waiting,